AGRA and the Ministry of Agriculture in Kenya for giving us this opportunity to host the dinner this evening.
Today, we all meet under this important AGRA forum. We are unifying our voices as a continent to take our voices and our position to the UN Food Summit. We acknowledge that we have a lot of challenges with an expected population to double to 2.5 billion people in the next 30 years. The African head of states have endorsed our intra-Africa trade that will see our different intra-countries business accelerated. It is estimated more than 11 trillion worth of business will be transacted. These opportunities are for our private sector. And I want to say here today, our private sector are ready to take up these opportunities.
First of all, I really just want to recognize all the people that have made this day a success, starting with my board chair. We wouldn't have had the participation that we had today from heads of state. This was the largest ever. A few had to fall off because of some challenges that was outside their control, but we had 8 registered heads of state. So, Chair, I wanted to appreciate the work you've done over the last few months to make this successful. I also want to appreciate your support, President Kikwete, because you also contributed to this success. And I just wanted people here to know that at AGRA, we take this work of AGRF seriously. I want our partners, the people that have signed up to AGRF that support us, I want you to know that the work we are doing here is in safe hands under the leadership of His Excellency, Haile Mariam. This is a journey to the Food System Summit. The Food System Summit happens in 2 weeks. In fact, I'm sitting in the midst of pre-summit and summit. And in between, I was worried that people get confused when I talk about another summit in Africa. Africa has a huge opportunity within the Food System Summit that we must harness. That's why we put everything into this AGRF about really catalyzing the conversations around the Food System Summit, all the way from private sector conversations to farmers' conversations, because this is not something that can be delivered by governments alone. It's not something that can be delivered by private sector alone. No single institution can do this alone. This is about partnerships. This is about collaboration. If we can partner among us as countries, if we can be clear and articulate what we need as countries, would be half there. Then the 45% or 30%, we can engage the rest of the world, and we need the rest of the world. But we have the world's hungry people. Really? For a continent that has 60% of the arable land, the world's arable land, for me, the challenge is that if we don't do anything to reverse this or to even slow it down, in 2030, we will be the only hungry continent in the world. One of the reasons I'm no longer Minister of Agriculture is because they actually thought that some of the crop failure was my fault. But it was not my fault. It was actually climate change. You know, when you create success, and then at some point people continue wanting more, and the capacity for more had been taken away by climate change. So my mom said, you know what, you're no longer a minister. I said, yes. Oh, that's great, because nobody's going to ask you, where is the rain? So imagine, I lost my job because of climate change. I'm prepared to fight climate change. The fact of the matter is that climate change is taking away everything we have. It's taking away farmers' knowledge. It's taking away crops we were already working with, and these crops are disappearing completely. It's taking away everything we know. And we are not contributing significantly to climate change. But we know we can work with the rest of the world to slow down how climate change is working. That's why the Food System Summit is important for Africa.
Kenya recently signed a bilateral agreement with the Republic of Congo And one of the things that we saw in Congo were actually very, very encouraging, and they actually portray the potential that Africa has. Congo has about 80 million hectares of arable land that has actually not started being in use. And what we are trying to do as the Kenyan government through the bilateral is to see how we can start stimulating agricultural production in countries such as Congo, of course, through the bilateral kind of agreements. This one shows the potential that Africa has as a nation, and especially as a continent, and especially once we find ways of not only learning from each other, but also, being each other's, being our brother's keeper, exchanging the knowledge that we have, and sharing, in terms of knowledge, and also how we can be able to do trade, and also share with other African countries what we see working and what we see not to work. So again, this is just an encouragement, something showing the potential that Africa has if we harness it, in a sustainable manner. When you talk about climate change, when you talk about environmental conservation, mitigating climate risks, I see a very huge structured potential, especially if we tap into the strength of our children. And I think through what our president mentioned today, the rebranded 4K clubs model, where you're using the educational structures to be able to teach that basic knowledge, to pass on the basic knowledge of agricultural production in our education system and in our children, as young as they may be, even 5 years of age, just getting them to start knowing how food is produced, why it's important to produce food, and also supporting them to be able to start investing in the environment right now through these kind of activities. But mine is really to reassure the government's commitment to these particular initiatives, and our critical hope is to see that we start implementing the deliberations so that we can be able to collectively gain from these discussions.